The second thing that we need to do is invest in 21st century infrastructure. This isn't the first time that we've seen job loss in rural America. The last time was in the 20s and 30s of last century. And we needed investments in electricity, power, telephone, roads run out to rural communities. We need the exact same thing today with 21st century infrastructure. What I'm talking about is cell and broadband internet. Right now, across most of the 8th Congressional District, we have poorer cell reception and poorer access to the internet than what I had in Baghdad. And folks, your tax dollars paid for that network in Baghdad. I think it's one of the reasons why I think we need to end these wars and invest here in America. And then the third thing is invest in an ambassador with skin in this game. This is where my family's from. This is where my family is. I'm fighting to make sure that kids don't have to leave once they graduate because they can stay here and they can work here. And I've got absolute skin in this game. I will fight tooth and nail. I will be a true representative of this district, and I'll bring the jobs here. Because it's not just about going up and casting votes and passing laws. It's truly electing someone that is representative of this district, and will fight for it.
Thank you. Mr. Van Dieven.
I believe that the largest single contributing factor to our floundering economy is the uncertainty that is being created by government interference. And government's incapable of creating jobs or a robust economy. And every time a politician talks about creating jobs or investing in something like infrastructure, they're using public money for something that was rejected in the private sector by the consumer. And I would focus on reducing the deficit for sure. We don't really have the luxury right now of nickel and diming the deficit to death. We need big ideas. And just for simplicity's sake, the budget pie, 1/3 goes to military spending, 1/3 goes to entitlements, and 1/3 is left over for everything else. And if I was elected, I would work on ending the occupations in Iraq and Afghanistan, closing some of the over 700 military bases that are located in 130 countries around the globe. And this would result in an annual $300 billion boost to the economy just like that. I would also work on whittling away some of these entitlements, especially the single largest entitlement that we are faced with right now, and it's not going to be available for future generations. It's not going to be available for my generation, and that's Social Security. Thank you.
Thank you. Congresswoman Emerson.
Thank you very much. There is absolutely no doubt that uncertainty in the marketplace has, as Rick has said, has caused a lot of businesses to sit on money and wait to see what happens. Companies that people I've talked to, small businesses, medium business, large businesses, they've all said, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know how the health care law is going to impact me and my workers, particularly if they're looking to be just a little bit larger than 50 employees. The environmental regulations that this administration is burdening us with are out of control. And as a matter of fact, the EPA is going to impose cap and trade or higher energy taxes by regulation if the Congress doesn't do it. People are also telling me that I don't know what's going on with the tax code. Are you going to extend the tax cuts? And you've got to keep in mind that we are a district of small businesses. We have many large employers, but we're really small businesses. And the fact of the matter is that if you don't extend the tax cuts of 2001, 2003, 50% of small business income is going to be impacted because they pay at the individual tax rate. And so they don't know what to do. And so consequently, until you get that certainty, we're not going to get any growth in the economy whatsoever. But I can assure you that those are the things that are causing companies not to create jobs today. Trade might have a little bit of an impact, but Mr. Sowers has said in the past that, well, Congress has to renegotiate the trade agreements. Well, Congress, it's an executive branch function. Congress can give a little oversight, but the fact of the matter is it is primarily for the administration. We have to reduce the deficit. In the last 4 years since Nancy Pelosi took over the Congress, the deficit has grown by 4 times, from $248 billion to $1.3 trillion, and the debt has quadrupled. This is what is absolutely strangling productivity and the growth of jobs in this economy, not necessarily only trade.
Time.
Thank you. Mr. Beal?
Well, I used to be a girls softball coach, and when things didn't come out right, you know, I'd gather the team around and I'd go, you know what, girls, this loss was a team effort. And when we have politicians going, we have giant deficits, we've got to reduce the spending. When I look at the Republicans and the Democrats, that was a team effort. And that's why I chose to run as an independent. Now, the points that people have already brought up, I won't go back over again. There is too much regulation. There is too much debt. It's much easier to lend to the government than to lend to a business that could possibly go bankrupt on you. There are the inability for taxes to be forecast definitely impacts a business person's planning procedure at that time. However, among the 4 of us, I'm probably the only candidate that's actually run his own business. Now, I've never had W-2 employees, but I've had several 1099 subcontractors work for me. And I understand the impact that just the little bit that my wife and I do together when we remodel a house impacts the whole economy. If we buy a house and remodel it, there's probably 4 lumber yards involved. There's probably 2 hardware stores involved. There's going to be an appraiser involved. There's going to be a title company involved. There's going to be several other individuals in the society that, because of our individual efforts, are going to be involved, and people are going to actually get employed. This is the practical experience that's lacking in Congress now, and this is the reason that I'm running for Congress myself. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Van Dieven, question 4. What are your plans to combat illegal immigration and secure American jobs?
Immigration's another one of those political hot-button issues that Congress just doesn't seem to want to fix. I believe that it's a fallacy that immigrants are taking jobs, because immigrants bring their own demand, and the level of jobs that are available in a country at any given time is not constant. I do believe in the free movement of peaceful people across borders. And a large part of the problems that are attributed to immigrants are actually the result of some failed government schemes, such as the war on drugs or the creation of the welfare state. I don't think that it's practical for us to increase our efforts 100-fold by locating, detaining, and deporting 12 to 20 million people that don't want to be found, or increasing raids on employers, or building an expensive and largely ineffective fence along the southern border. As soon as we build that fence, they're going to figure out a way to get around it. And every time we find one of these immigrants, there's going to be 5 to take their place. I do believe that we can create a dynamic society that recognizes the demand for immigrant labor, especially unskilled immigrant labor. I know the agriculture industry, unskilled labor is in high demand there. And if elected, I would support issuing additional work visas. The work visas that are issued right now don't even begin to sniff the demand that the agriculture industry demands for unskilled labor. And I think that our immigration laws are seriously antiquated, and they need to be addressed, and they need to be changed and constructed to consider our long-term economic goals. Thank you.
Thank you. Excuse me. Congresswoman Emerson.
You know, I participated in my very first protest ever at my older age, I guess, a couple months ago, with a lot of construction workers and Sheriff Bullock here in the county down in Farmington, when Sheriff Bullock arrested or took into jail about 20 undocumented workers who were working a job site in Farmington. Unfortunately, when he called the Immigration and Customs Enforcement folks, not only did they not ask for their documentation, but they said, there are a couple of them, keep a couple of them, you can let the rest of them go. Those people were taking the jobs of our good, hardworking construction workers here in St. Francis County. Jobs that they had traditionally done their entire lives, and probably their fathers and their grandfathers did too. Employers have to be punished through felony offenses for hiring people that they know are illegal. And these people did not have any papers. I actually went back and introduced legislation, it was near the end of the session, to make this a felony offense, because we don't have it today. We also must secure our borders and invest more in that. In spite of the fact that we've added recently several, about 1,500 new National Guard to the border, there's more work that needs to be done. And we need to change immigration policy that says, okay, unless you suspect someone is a terrorist, you need to let them go. Secure borders, workplace enforcement, and a serious discussion about how you solve this problem. But if you're here illegally, you go home and you apply the legal way. People here illegally don't deserve to have the jobs of our American workers.
Thank you. Mr. Beal.
I think when it comes to illegal immigration, we do need to secure our borders. I think it's totally unacceptable to have drug dealers occupying federal territory down on the border and doing nothing about it. This is not a new problem. This has gone on for at least the last 20 years, and people in Congress needed to recognize it when they had opportunity to work in a majority Congress to actually secure the border. I understand that George Bush said we need those people here because they'll do jobs that Americans won't. That's not appropriate attitude for a Republican president. And to go ahead and not work this problem when the opportunity presents itself is a disappointment on both parties. As far as workforce enforcement, I think that's critical. Whenever we find these illegals that are not properly documented, they should be sent back. However, the ICE program has limited funds. They're focusing their efforts on finding terrorists among the immigrants, and they probably don't have the capability or the funding to take everyone that is caught back to the United States. Back to Mexico. So what I think we need to do is, first off, we need to seal that border, and I absolutely believe that is possible. The other thing we need to do is we need to recognize these people are in our midst, that it's a physical impossibility to move them back, and to say, identify yourselves, we will start taxing you, we are fining you for acting illegally, and then we want you to integrate into our society under the normal process. I don't really want to do that, but I think that is a practical solution that we're going to have to work towards. As far as having real-world experience, it's critical to know that the I-9 program is currently in process. It's already been in '96. And if you hire an illegal, you have to sign under penalty of perjury that you did everything you could to verify that. And Mrs. Emerson's new law, I think, is just one more layer of bureaucracy, and I think if we just stick with the I-9 program, we'll be fine. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sowers.
Well, this is an area where Congresswoman Emmerich and I have some level of agreement on. We absolutely have to start by securing the border. I approach this from a Green Beret's perspective. Security is what I think of first.